Hey guys, Fuad here from beattweaks.com. In this video, I'm going to show you one tiny little thing you can do that can literally transform the entire track you're working on especially in terms of the bottom end. And it's a very, very simple little tweak. So I've got this track here that I'm working on, and I've just got a kick and a bass and a pluck sound, and it sounds like this right now. So if we just take a listen to it real quick. Alright, so it sounds pretty good, but if you listen closely, especially if you focus on the bottom end, you probably notice that the kick and the bass, the bottom end sounds a little muffled, it sounds a little muddy, it's not as tight as it should be. And that's exactly the problem we're going to tackle with one small little tweak. So I've got the kick and the bass right here. So let's listen to the kick by itself. Take a listen to how it sounds. All right, so it's a really powerful kick drum, and I don't have any processing on it whatsoever. Now let's listen to the bass. Right, so it's a nice plucky, it's kind of a mid-range type of bass. It's not really a subby. It's not meant to fill out the subs of the track. And I do have EQ on it. I've kind of mixed the kick and the bass together, and I've low cut the bass up to about 90 hertz and then boosted it at around 130. That's where the body is, and it's just to make it poke out a little bit more. Now here's something that I do all the time when I'm mixing kick and bass, or when I'm mixing the bottom end in general. If we go to the master channel, just ignore the limiter and ignore, this is just some tape saturation that I have on the master. But more importantly, I have this auto filter here, and you can put an EQ if you wanted to as well. This is not going to be doing any processing. This is just for us to listen to what's going on in the bottom end. So let's take a listen to what's going on in the bottom end. I'm going to turn off the pluck and turn on this auto filter on the master. Make sure the resonance is on 0. This is a 24 dB per octave slope. And basically what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to kind of hone in on the bottom end of the track. Right now you can hear that it's actually, the bottom end is not as clean as it should be. It doesn't sound tight. And I did pull back the limiter because it was doing way too much gain reduction. So I did pull it back so we don't hear any distortion or unwanted artifacts that we don't want to hear. But getting back to this auto filter, as I said, you can, the bottom end sounds boomy. It sounds kind of loose. It's not where it should be. So here's the simple little tweak that I'm going to do to fix all of this. I'm going to go to the kick drum. I'm going to come in here into the simpler plugin in Ableton Live, which is just the sampler plugin that comes with Ableton Live. You can use another sampler plugin if you have one, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten the kick drum. So the sustain by default comes all the way up to 0. It's at 0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sustain all the way down to minus infinity, and then I'm going to use the decay to set the length of the kick drum. Now listen again to the bottom end and see what happens when I pull this decay down. You see how significantly that cleans up the bottom end? just this one little tweak right here, just shortening the kick drum. All right. So this is something you absolutely should be doing every single time you mix, and every single time you wonder why the bottom end in your track doesn't sound as tight as other tracks that you hear. Well, this is one big reason why. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, when you do this, you lose a lot of the bottom end on the kick. So I'm actually going to demonstrate that. I'm going to put a spectrum on here. Let's take a look at where the fundamental frequency of the kick is before and after this tweak of the decay. So this is before the tweak. It's probably going to be somewhere up here. Right, so it's all the way up here at minus 13 dB. If we read the output here, it's at minus 13 dB. And now if we take this decay back down to 1.4 seconds where we tweaked it, let's see where it is now. So it's all the way down to around minus 20 dB now. So we've lost about 7 dB on the bottom end of the kick drum basically. But that actually has an advantage. Now what we can do, if we take the volume of the kick up 7 dB, so I'm going to put a limiter on the kick drum, drop a limiter there, add 7 dB on it. Now what you're going to get is not only are you going to get the bottom end back with this boost, it's going to be back up to where it was before we did this tweak. Now you're also going to get a lot more punch and attack from the kick because you're bringing all the other frequencies up as well. All right. And that's going to make the kick cut through, it's going to cut right through the mix. No matter how busy your mix is, if you do this and you boost it up to make up for the loss in the bottom end of the kick drum, you're bringing up all that top end, all that click, all that smack, all that attack of the kick. You're also bringing that up. So let's take a listen to how it sounds now. Again, with the filter on the master. That sounds so much tighter now. So just to compare, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate the kick drum track. And then on the duplicated kick drum, I'm going to remove the limiter. And I'm going to bring the decay back up to where it was and the sustain back up to where it was. So this is going to be the original kick drum without the tweak. And I'm going to compare to how the bottom end sounds, the difference between the two kicks. All right, so I'll have it with the one without the tweak on first. We'll listen to that. So you can hear clearly how much tighter it sounds with the decay time tweaked and the kick drum shortened. Basically what you're doing, if you don't have a sampler like this, you can very easily just do like an envelope, a volume envelope. So you can go into the MIDI clip, or if you're using audio, you can just do it right on the arrangement view. But if you're using MIDI, literally what you can do is draw in volume automation, right? So if you go to the controls and you go to volume, you can literally, for every quarter note, so for every kick, you can just do this. All right. And basically, and then just copy paste that automation for each quarter note. And you're pretty much doing the same thing. And you can just tweak the length of this, and that will fade out the tail of the kick. So that's what you can do if you don't have, maybe you don't use Ableton Live, maybe you don't have a sampler plugin like this. So you can do it just by using volume envelopes in your MIDI clip, or if you're using audio, right on the arrangement view. All right, now let's take the auto filter off. And again, compare the tweaked kick drum and just the normal kick drum. So we'll do it with the normal kick drum first, and then we'll switch over to the tweaked kick drum. You see how they sound in comparison? The original sounds really flabby, it sounds flat, and the tweaked one has so much more attack, it has so much more presence, that's going to cut right through the mix. So if I turn the pluck on and I have an arpeggiator here and some pads and stuff, you can definitely hear the difference. All right, so that's a huge difference, guys. I really highly suggest you do this every time you mix. So if you're ever having problems with your kick drums not cutting through the mix, or if you're having problems with a muddy bottom end, or it just sounds flabby, it doesn't sound as tight as you want it to be, definitely look into doing this.